The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of terrible ADR. So get ready, folks, because we're talking ninja movies. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Salty Nerd Podcast. Today we're talking ninja movies, and I'm joined as always by my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with
the ninja.
The ninja himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Matt Vader 74. What's up, dude?
The bearded ninja.
Las Vegas fat ninja.
Las Vegas fat ninja. Hashtag Las Vegas fat ninja. What's up, guys?
I love you.
Also joined by our ambassador of estrogen, Jude. Welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. I'm excited to be back. And last but not least, producer of the show, Matthew Gadish.
I'm excited to have you back too because I hate hosting and having to do all the button pushing.
I'm back, everybody. Yes, I'm back.
He's grumpy.
I'm
smart.
back in the saddle again. I'm not going to sing. All right. Hey, before we get into it, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we're going to dive into Ninja Assassin. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you would like to support the podcast, go to saltynerdclub.com, join our Patreon team. There you can get exclusive access to all kinds of really cool stuff, and you get to chat up the hosts of the podcast and get to support us on our goal to reaching 100 Patreon subscribers. That's saltynerdclub.com. Blooper reels are totally worth it. Go there. Okay, let's get into this. Ninja Assassin. Jude, take it away.
All right. 2009 Ninja Assassin, rated R with a runtime of 1 hour, 39 minutes. Had a budget of $40 million. Oh. What do you think this brought into the box office?
I'm going to say 85 million.
Vader?
This movie, I think, got its legs afterwards, so I'm going to say it might have broken even.
61 million.
Not bad.
Made its budget back. Yeah. Did not double it, though.
Yeah. That's why there's no sequel.
Yeah. So far.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the synopsis. For thousands of years, the Ozunu have stolen children and trained them to be assassins in the ninja orphanage. Raizo is on his way to becoming the best and deadliest among his orphaned brothers and sisters when he's faced with a choice to kill a young girl trying to escape the orphanage or betray his order and be branded a traitor. After he attempts to kill his master, he becomes the target of all the brothers and sisters he left behind. When a female Europol researcher starts asking questions about mysterious ninja assassins, she becomes their next mark, and Raizo is the only one who can stand between her and the ninja assassins out for her blood. With the unfinished business of his still alive master, he teams up with her to bring down the Ozunu for good.
Right on. I had a ton of fun with this movie.
It was great.
Way more fun than I thought it was going to
I'm
have.
really surprised I hadn't seen it before.
But you're welcome.
Yeah, Vader. This was Vader's pick.
Vader.
Well done,
Well
sir.
done, sir. Great pick. I had a ton of fun. I really appreciated the story, which was surprisingly good. I was really expecting nothing but like a slash and kill, button mash nonsense movie. I didn't expect there to be a decent story. And this story was actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
Had some heart to it.
Yeah.
It was a really good hero's journey. I appreciated it, man. It was really cool. Good pick.
It was pretty standard fare, story-wise.
You think so?
Yeah.
You're not getting.
I didn't watch this for the story.
No?
Hell no.
Well, no. But it's a nice surprise when you get it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You watch this for the anime blood.
Oh my gosh, buckets.
You watch it for the fight scenes.
Yeah.
A
ninja movie to me, when we decided to do this week, I was like, okay, ninja movie. What do I want? I want stealth. I want murder. I want badass karate moves.
Yep.
And I got all of that.
You want all of that.
In spades in this movie. And on top of it, a pretty decent story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was thrilled. They did jump the shark a handful of times with some of the fights, and I was like, okay, this is like...
Well, sure, but I think that you expect that with a ninja movie, like the defying gravity aspect of a ninja. I'm already like, okay, because they're ninjas.
Yeah.
There's a mystical element to ninjas.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
The way they move and disappear and blend into the shadows. And this movie played up on all of that stuff.
Yeah, I love that scene where the master ninja who teaches all the orphans, he's talking about how the ninja has full control over their body. And he cuts his hand and he prevents himself from bleeding through sheer force of will. And I was just like, damn.
Sho Kosugi was awesome in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He came out of retirement to do this movie.
Really?
Really?
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and
he was a badass. He's the teacher, the mentor?
yeah.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
the master.
Yeah,
The ninja master.
he's pretty dope. I did like him. One of the cooler aspects, again, because I'm looking for stealth in these ninja movies, and when they just literally disappear into the shadows, even though they're like standing right in front of you, you can't see them. I love it. It's so freaking cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie managed to capture the mystical part of the ninja the way those old shitty 80s movies
Couldn't.
That we'll talk about later.
Yes. And yeah, this movie just if you want to watch a ninja movie, man, this is the one.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. So
Buckets of blood.
Yeah.
My gosh, so much blood.
very, very, very it's for anime cartoon style.
It does feel like an anime come to life.
Yeah.
You're
well,
right.
they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I believe they actually studied some old anime movies and stuff to figure out the style of the blood splatters and stuff that they wanted to.
Do you guys think the CGI was a little dated at times?
A little bit,
It didn't bother
but
me.
it didn't. Bother me.
It didn't bug me either, but I did notice. I'm like, okay, so this is like, when year did this come out? 2009. Okay. Same year Avatar came out, right?
Yeah.
Was Avatar 2009? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I'll
Anyway.
look it up right now.
Cadis, you haven't really talked much. What did you think about this movie?
I really enjoyed this movie. So fun fact, this movie was produced by the Wachowskis. They basically, when they were making Speed Racer, the guy who plays Rizzo in this movie was in Speed Racer, and they were so impressed with him because he was like a South Korean like pop star.
It's a K-pop guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
K-pop
Really?
guy, yeah. And they
He
were
was
so,
like in a boy band or something,
yeah,
right?
he was in a boy band, and they were so impressed with him that they wanted to kind of like build a movie around him, and so they came up with this concept, and the script that they originally had written for it wasn't very good, and so at the time the Wachowskis were working with J. Michael Straczynski, who was the kind of writer behind Babylon 5. He was like the mastermind. He's one of the great writers. Like his comic book work is fantastic. He's one of my favorite writers out there. And they were working with him on this Netflix series called Sense8. And they kind of came to him.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, we reviewed that, I think, right?
No, we never reviewed it.
We didn't?
No. But they went to J. Michael Straczynski and said, like, hey, the script sucks. Can you write us a good one? And he's like, give me 3 days.
Yeah.
3 days?
Yeah, he did it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so
57 hours.
yeah, 57 hours. He delivered the script that is basically this movie. And so one of the reason I was kind of sitting here chuckling to myself when you guys were talking about like how much you thought the story was good. And I was like, that's J. Michael Straczynski.
Right on, dude.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so do you guys have any favorite moments or least favorite moments? Vader, what do you got for me? What's your favorite fight scene in this movie? Or do you have something?
My favorite fight scene?
Yeah.
Probably the last one.
Against the
When it's
master?
the master versus the student. Yeah, but they're all good.
Yeah.
I mean, the beginning of the movie is amazing, where the tattoo artist is in there telling his story and everything, and then they just come in and destroy all those punks. It was
wasn't the main punk the guy from
Fast and
Tokyo
Furious.
Drift?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I don't know his name, and I don't want to try and butcher it, but yeah, I think that is the guy from Fast and Furious. My favorite scene is actually the one. It's his first assassination against the big. I think he was like Irish guy or something like that.
He was like a Cockney.
Yeah, like that big British
mobster
dude,
guy.
and he stabs him with
That
the
guy
knife.
would not go down.
Yeah, and he's like, "You're gonna need a bigger knife than that." I was like, "Oh, that's dope!" But it was just such a brutal fight, and I think the reason why I think it's my favorite is because I do like the mystical aspects of this movie, but when they really hammer down and ground it in reality, and the fight scenes are a little bit more realistic, I think it really sells it. Like that fight scene in the bathroom, it feels so freaking heavy and like just impactful every time something happens. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think you know what to expect with a ninja movie with the fight scenes. And so this was really different. So I appreciated that they kind of switched it up a little bit and brought in this character that's completely unlike anyone else in this movie. It was like a sweet little surprise.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh shit, that guy does not have the right accent for this movie."
I was wondering if. Actually, first off, I'm kind of surprised I didn't go watch this in the theater when it came out. Secondly, was there a 3D element to this movie? Because I feel like there might have been.
There wasn't.
It wasn't 3D, but they did try to simulate it
with the way the knife weapons were coming kind of out of the screen and stuff. You know, it's interesting.
That's the only part that I felt was a little bit dated, I think. Is
Really?
when they tried to
did
do
it
that.
really well. It was very kind of matrixy.
I really enjoyed the use of weapons. in this.
Oh yeah, dude. That I don't know what it's called. Does anybody know what that weapon is called with the chain?
Scorpion?
Yeah, the scorpion weapon, right?
I did. I was kind of looking up some stuff for this movie a little bit, and they created. That's not a real ninja weapon.
Okay.
They created
Bullshit.
That, no, they created that for this movie.
But I've seen Jackie Chan
But
use
you
it
haven't seen this weapon.
with a little hook knife at the end.
It's
Okay,
different.
all right, that's different. It's usually just like a spearhead, right?
Right.
Okay, because I've seen like
this chain weapon with the bladed knife on the end of it it's they created that for this movie.
I kind of want one.
I kind of want one. I'll probably we'll chop our heads off.
We'll make some. We'll have an arts and crafts day.
If the Salty Nerd podcast is no more, it's because Jude and I killed ourselves trying to be ninjas.
We're trying to fight in the backyard like we're 12 years old again.
Yeah, for sure. I used to do that.
Dude, it's such a crazy cool weapon though, because it almost seems like it's made up in people's heads. Like nobody could really use it, but I've seen like I said, Jackie Chan. One of my favorite Jackie Chan movies is Shanghai Noon or Shanghai Nights. I think it's Noon. Noon is the first one, right? Yeah. And he uses a horseshoe and he ties it to the rope, and he uses that same technique where he's swinging the blade around. It's so freaking badass, dude. Anybody who has that kind of skill, it's just top tier. I love it. I love watching that stuff. There's a guy on TikTok, I think, that actually does it.
Really?
It's so much fun.
You're gonna have to send me that.
I'll send you the videos.
Okay.
All
Alex
right.
and I like to share TikToks back and forth. You're like my only friend that I actually know on there.
TikTok.
There's a lot of fun content there. Kadish, do you have a favorite moment in this movie?
I do. So there's a scene where one of the ninja assassins is coming after the Interpol lady.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's kind of going to her apartment to get her stuff so she can, like, hit the road because she knows the assassins are after her. And there's a ninja lying in wait for her. And the room is, like, completely dark. And as he tries to assassinate her, what's his name? Rizzo? He comes out of nowhere, and these ninjas have like this like duel to the death in the dark, but you can still see like little bits and pieces of what's happening. And I thought that was like a really, really cool scene. So, I mean, there's so many, like every fight scene in this movie is really good.
Yeah.
In fact, the director of this movie, James McTeague, he directed V for Vendetta. And I think he has like a stuntman background or something like that.
Cool.
But he's very well versed in the action scenes. And overall, like this movie is very enjoyable. It's a fun movie, especially like if you're into, martial arts and things like that. The one thing that does take away from it is the overuse of CGI for some of the weapons and stuff.
And the blood too.
Yeah. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right.
I did another thing that I did learn kind of going back on this is that Rain, the Rizzo, he did all his own stunt work, all his own fight scenes.
Dude, that dude is so ripped.
He just trained nonstop for I guess like 8 months.
Yeah, he had like
building up to this.
He had no background in martial arts.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like he's
a dancer, man. He's a K-pop star.
Yeah, he was in this boy band called Fan Club, which was a South Korean boy band. He had no martial arts background, and so in the build up to this movie, he spent like 6 to 8 months just training and getting cut. And
you know what's funny too is that like at one point in the movie they say something about him like, oh, he looks like he came out of a boy band or something.
And he looks at the camera.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's cool. I had no idea.
And the guy who played his younger version in like the orphanage, he was from a boy band as well, and his band was MBLAQ. And basically, that was a band.
This is what Kadish listens to, so he knows all about it.
That was a band that actually Rizzo started and kind of mentored Simon Cowell style. Oh. So he kind of plucked that guy to play his younger self.
That's pretty cool.
I feel like this whole K-pop world is something we don't want to even scratch.
Yeah, they're worse than Snyder fans.
Yeah, it might be pretty vicious out there. I don't know.
There's
I don't want
a
to find
whole
out.
world. It's like the ocean.
Yeah.
Like you look out and you just see like the top of the ocean, but underneath there's just like a whole world. That's K-pop.
The iceberg meme.
You don't even know what's going on. Like, don't even try.
Koreans and their pop music and their video game world is just next level.
Yeah.
Bunch of angry Korean tweens just tweet Salty Nerd podcast, man. All right, so speaking of the younger character of Rizzo in this movie, I want to talk about the character's motivation and his little love interest that he had with the girl. I thought that was like crazy well done, like way better done than it should have been for this movie. His motivation was incredible. And we kind of get to see them kind of grow up together in this crazy, intense environment where they're learning to be ninja assassins together. And you can always tell that the girl, she has too much empathy to do what she's doing.
She's got too much heart.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that she says is that no matter what happens, they'll never touch my heart.
Yeah.
And then
they stab her in the heart.
Stab her through the heart. Yeah.
God, it was so harsh too. And the older brother is a very famous actor, correct? He was, he's in a bunch of movies. I recognize his face. I can't remember. I should probably know his name, but
should have done a little more research for the show.
Should have done a little bit more research. But I recognize him, and I'm like, man, he's so cold-hearted in this movie. It's awesome. But I really appreciated that motivation. And one of the scenes that really stood out to me as being really well done was where they were talking about the bonsai trees. And she like cut the wire that was holding it together. And he's like, you're breaking the rules, man. And she's like, I believe the tree knows where it wants to go. It has a heart. And, they had that whole conversation. And she's like, she touches his chest and, I feel your heart right here. It was such a great moment. And it really set up a great setup and payoff for when she gets killed at the end. And it was just like, you see his face and his whole demeanor just drop. And you're like, oh.
But it's also a good contrast to like the harsh training that he's going through, because we see what his master puts him through and what he has to endure.
Not just him, but her too. And for her to maintain like so much heart within her while she's like going through all of this training.
But it properly kind of sets the stage for his eventual turn, because in the hands of a lesser writer, the guy, Raizo would have just, been like, these guys are bad.
So that's another thing that this movie does really well, is it like throughout and more than once it sets something up and then it pays off later on. Like in the beginning, there's that scene with the old man and he's doing the tattoo and he's like telling the story about the last time these ninja assassins came. And there's like this ominous like letter that comes and he opens it up and it's just like sand or ash or something. And he's like, oh no. And so he tells this story about the last time that the ninjas happened. They killed everyone and he got stabbed through the heart and should have died, but his heart is on the other side of his chest.
Yeah, he has like a special like birth defect where the heart was on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Which is a real thing that I'd never heard of before now. Yeah.
I thought it was a made-up movie thing. And then in the last scene, our main female character, she gets stabbed through the heart also. And you think that she's dead, and then it turns out her heart is on the other side of her chest.
It's another great setup and payoff.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I didn't really buy into whatever relationship they tried to set up between Raizo and the female cop lady.
I think her name was Mika.
Mika?
Yeah. Because
I got more of like a buddy cop vibe from them than a romance vibe.
I wasn't sure what kind of vibe they were trying to set up, but if you think about it, the time that they spent together in the movie
it's not long.
Is about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
they shouldn't have any kind of empathy towards.
And she kind of unknowingly betrays him.
Yeah.
Well, but they also both save each other's life.
Right. Yeah.
A couple times, so there's that bond there, but. Mostly, there was a part in this movie at the end where basically Raizo gets messed up, like he's on death's doorstep, and he has to fall into a kind of like a coma in order to like heal himself. And she, Mika, basically kind of gives up his location by turning on this GPS tracker that her partner had given her. And she knows that the ninjas will find him. And when I was watching this, I was kind of like, I don't know where this is going. It seems kind of weird. And but then it pays off in the third act of the film, where basically they take the ninjas kidnap Raizo, take him back to their training camp to have their
ninja
master,
dojo.
because the master wants it.
Yeah, the master wants to kill him, and it turns out that Mika had Raizo swallow the tracker, and as he's being beaten up, he kind of spits it out. And then like all like the Interpol guys show up, and there's this huge ninja versus like SWAT battle that happens at the end. And one of my favorite visuals in the movie was actually where Raizo is facing off with Ozunu, the master, and they're in one of the kind of Japanese dojos, and the paper walls are all on fire. So you have this beautiful like fire background as they're like facing off with each other. But even though there's like a lot of fire, there's also a lot of shadow. And so they do this thing where like they kind of fall into the shadows and they don't know where they are.
It's so badass.
It's probably one of the most beautifully shot fight scenes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, specifically the moment you were talking about when they line up with their swords, you know, they're doing two different stances and you just see the shadow of them and then they go at each other. And
when they're behind the wall.
Yeah, they're behind the wall. That's probably one of my favorite shots in the movie. It's so gorgeous, so much fun to watch. And then
that would make a really good thumbnail.
It really would for the YouTube channel. They're Kadish. It was such a great fight scene. I don't know. I know I already said like my favorite one was the one in the previous part of the movie, but this one, it was just so much fun to watch. And to see the master like show what he's capable of doing versus what his students are capable of doing, it's crazy.
You figure out really quick why he's the master of
right?
Ninja
Yeah.
Dojo. Yeah.
Just literally like turns into dust and disappears into the shadows. It's amazing.
And
it's
it's
so cool.
so believable, and he's such a badass that you literally feel concerned for Raizo as he's fighting this guy. And then when Raizo turns the tables on the master, you're like, yeah!
It's like he figured out how to finally
channel his inner
get to
ninja.
that next level, that master level. It's like, oh, now he's doing
because
that.
he never completed his final task to become an
Yeah.
Ozunu.
Yeah.
But now he has taken on the master. God,
So good. God, we love movies.
Yeah, it's amazing how like a good writer can build up to a climax that is actually satisfying for the audience to see, because, you know, throughout the entire movie we see how you know, Ozunu tortures him as he's a kid and, you know, teaches him in like this very harsh manner, and then we see the betrayal where Raizo kind of turns against him, and at that point, every time they come face to face, it's kind of like the father is giving the son a chance to come back, and the son keeps rejecting him to the point where like they have to fight. And at that point, it's like the student must become better than the master.
Yes.
And
we got the whole hero's journey thing kind
Yeah.
of encapsulated into 90 minutes, right?
yeah, but the payoff of seeing him fight this
It's
guy,
awesome.
like the build up to it was so pitch perfectly done.
Yes, it
J.
was.
Michael Straczynski. You know, it was such a great payoff, and a lot of movies nowadays are missing that because the writers for Hollywood are really bad right now.
Well, I'm glad we watched this movie. It was really fun. I'm trying to think if there's anything negative that I can say about this movie, any kind of criticism. I think the final battle scene, as good as it was, I do think the whole, like, he goes like supersonic and like and just like bounces around like super speed. That was a little weird. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't like the fact that they were killing ninjas with bullets.
I agree. I was going to
Because,
say
you know,
that.
one of the old tropes that, and it's in a ninja movie, not in one that we watched, I believe, but only a ninja can kill a ninja.
So when the Interpol guys come in and just start blazing with their guns, it's kind of
I
like,
was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Bullets. They're supposed to be cutting those bullets out of the air with their swords.
Get your-
Can't samurais kill ninjas?
Yeah, I guess. But
I feel like that question is sacrilegious in some way.
we don't have the right to talk about it.
Kadish just magically splits in half, and there was a ninja in the corner the whole time.
He's in the black. Yeah, he's over there. Okay, so final thoughts on Ninja Assassin. Vader, go for it, bud.
oh, just a fun movie, man. I'm really glad I made us watch it.
How many ninja stars out of 5 do you give this?
I would give this. I didn't like the cop guy. I thought he was kind of annoying. 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah, 3.5. I'll go 3.5 stars for sure.
Cool. Jude, how about you?
I really enjoyed it. It was such a surprise to me that it was as good as it was. I agree that the cop guy was annoying, but I feel like you need at least one annoying character in a movie like this. But for a ninja movie, very well done, very well written, very interesting. There were no like lags in the movie. No boring parts. Everything was really like you just really wanted to invest in this. I give it 4 out of 5 knives on chains.
There you go. Kadish, how about you, bud?
This movie, I'd seen it a long time ago, and I'd kind of forgotten most of it. But it was a joy to kind of come back and revisit. It's a very good movie. I give it a solid 3 throwing stars out of 5.
3, right on. I was gonna go with 4, but you brought up the cop guy, and I really don't like him. But I kind of agree with Jude. I think that's the point. You're supposed to
It's
not
not
like
a
him. He's
perfect
like
movie, but
he's the
it's-
smarmy, bureaucrat or whatever. So that makes sense why you wouldn't like him. But like I said,
Well, that character, so he was the partner of Mika, and basically he had to, like, he knew that there was like some shady stuff going on within the department, and so he had to pretend to be corrupt in order to fight the corruption. And ultimately, like, he's the guy who kind of saves the day because he's the one who brings Interpol out to the ninja dojo. So he's kind of a weird character because he's skirting that line between being a likable good guy and being an annoying kind of double crosser.
Okay, so like I said, some of the CGI was a bit much. It's a little bit dated now. I'll dock some points for that. And I'm trying really hard.
Why? Because this movie should have known that you were going to review it.
No.
Years
I'm
after
just
it came
I'm just
out.
thinking out loud. I'm like, what? I'm trying to think of something that I can criticize it for because it's really good.
Don't look for stuff to criticize.
But I'm like, I can't give it a
If you like it, you
5.
like them, well,
I can't give it a 5. That'd be ridiculous.
No, it's not a
There's
5.
only one 5-star movie. It's Indiana Jones.
No, there's 2. There's 2 now.
Oh, there's 2? I'm sorry.
Death Stalker?
No.
Death Stalker 2 was better than the first one.
Wrath of Khan, man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you started tearing up on that one. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna give it 4. 4 stars. Ton of fun. Cool. Really well worth it. I was surprised at how much I liked it. So there you go. Go check out Ninja Assassin. Well worth it. All right, guys. Before we move on to the next movie, which is Duel to the Death. Duel to the Death. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you'd like to support the podcast and get some cool merch in return, go to saltynerdstore.com. There we have some really cool T-shirt designs for you guys to purchase and, look freaking fly as hell on the streets with some of our stuff. With the shirt of the month, because it's June, is Peace, Love, and Dinosaurs. That's on our TeePublic page. Go to saltynerdstore.com. It's Jurassic June, bud. Ooh. Peace, love, dinosaurs.
Yeah, we need a better shirt for June.
How dare you? You can also get You Goonies. It's on there with the YouTube emblem. It's cool.
We do a lot of kind of movie jokey T-shirts. So like if you're into movies and you want like a fun kind of T-shirt to show how nerdy of a movie buff you are, you can go check out saltynerdstore.com. All
right, guys. Any money that you guys give us for the merch goes directly back into the podcast. So help us out. Thank you. All right. Let's get into 1983's Duel to the Death. It's a foreign film. Take it away, Jude. What do you got for us?
1983, Duel to the Death, rated R with a runtime of 1 hour, 26 minutes. What do you think this brought into the box office?
I have no idea.
Nobody does, because it's not listed.
It's a foreign film in Hong Kong, you said?
Yeah, it's a Hong Kong movie.
Okay. I don't even know what to judge that on, but
well, let me
I feel like it should be labeled as a classic foreign film. Is it? Is it known as like a classic?
I don't know if it's labeled a classic, but I would certainly call it a classic because I loved it.
Yeah. We'll get into it in a minute, but I kind of agree with Kate here. Go ahead.
All right, here's a synopsis. In overdub heaven, a duel brings the best fighters together once every 10 years. Chin Wan, representing Shaolin Kung Fu, discovers a plot to rig the duel. The fighters all get kidnapped, leaving only Hashimoto, the Japanese samurai fighter, and Sheng, the daughter of a legless lord, to fight. When Sheng realizes her father rigged the contest, she fights Chin Wan in an attempt to appease her dad without disgracing China. But when her father tries to cheat, he accidentally kills her, leaving Hashimoto and Chin Wan to duel to the death.
This was a surprisingly complex movie.
A lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff.
I didn't get any of that out of this movie.
No? Oh, I was watching it.
Because you don't read.
Yeah, this is all overdubbed and or subtitles. There's no English-speaking actors in this movie.
The overdub is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, this is when you think of like a ninja movie from the 80s, this is exactly what you think of.
Yeah.
There's like people flying through the woods. There's like old school fighting. But like as they're fighting and talking to each other, they're just talking like this. Dad, what are you doing?
Yeah, the overdubbing is horrendous. It fills up every trope that you have about foreign Asian film.
It's so horrendous that it's charming.
Yeah, brought to America and like overdubbed with English-speaking actors.
Yeah.
It's so rough. It kind of takes you out of it sometimes.
And it's got the super choreographed fight scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And the wire work and
A lot of wire work.
It's pretty fun.
It's got the crazy kung fu master in the woods talking to his parrot. Yes. It's got everything that you could possibly want.
I love flying ninjas. Ninjas who fly, that just goes right to my heart. It's on the wrong side of my chest.
This movie has it all. But I was surprised, like I said, at how complex it was. There's a lot of moving pieces to this movie, and if you're not paying attention, or if you can't get past the bad overdubbed voiceover, it can get lost. Because there's a lot going on. This is like Game of Thrones going on over here.
I'm
That
really
was me.
Yeah.
I got totally lost.
Yeah?
I'm not going to be able to talk a whole lot during this segment because I got no idea what's going on in this
Who
movie.
picked this one? Was it you,
Kadish.
Kadish?
Yeah, this was my
Oh,
pick.
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is some Chinese,
Versus Japan. Yeah.
Yes.
Japanese film school thing that Kadish wanted us to watch because it's some kind of classic or something.
Well, I enjoyed the hell out of the fight scenes, though.
No, they were good.
They were really
Very,
good,
very well
especially
done.
for the time.
Yeah.
Like, they had full-on, like, bodies getting cut in half.
Yeah,
and,
there was no CGI in this movie.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff was practical.
yeah. And I appreciated that. There was a lot of charm to it. So,
They have a lady fighter.
hell yeah. And she's badass, too.
Yeah.
Right on.
Till she
Kadish-
dies.
Yeah. Till she gets killed.
Matriarchy.
Katie, so tell us, why did you pick this one out of all the ninja movies out there?
So I wanted to do something that was like authentically ninja, because obviously like a lot of our choices were kind of like the canon, like American Ninja Warrior type.
You know what? It was surprisingly hard to find like 3 legit ninja movies because everything was like, well, that's not really, or I don't really consider that. So it was hard coming up with a list.
I tried to pick Batman.
Yeah, you did.
You guys vetoed
I tried
me.
to pick Bruce Lee, and you all shut me down.
So continue, Kadish. Why did you pick this movie?
Yeah, so the guy who directed this, his name is Ching Soo-sung. He is kind of like a very well-known Hong Kong action director. He used to be a stuntman. He kind of pioneered the whole wire fu thing with people just using wires to do
Anti-gravity
stuff.
stuff.
And so like a lot of the ninja stuff in this movie is like super like choreographed and very beautiful to watch and really badass. And so like, I was trying to think of like a good ninja movie to, watch for this week. And I couldn't think of like a better one than this. Now I hadn't actually watched this movie all the way through before in the past. So like this was kind of like my first time watching it. And I was surprisingly impressed with how good this movie is. And it reminds me a lot of one of Alex's favorite movies, Warrior, where basically you have the premise for this movie is that every 10 years there's a duel between the greatest swordsman from China and the greatest swordsman from Japan. And basically they get to, whoever wins, the country gets the honor of hosting like the greatest swordsman. And so it's a big deal. It's kind of like their version of the Super Bowl, but to the death, basically.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the interesting things about this movie is that you have these 2 master swordsmen, these 2 main characters. The first one is Chen Wen, who we meet at the beginning of the movie, and he trains with the Shaolin monks in China, and he's China's greatest swordsman, and he wants to go and test his ability to see if he truly is the best. And then we meet Hashimoto, who is the Japanese greatest swordsman. And he's the guy who trained in China and
Japan.
Japan, thank you. And he's always dressed all in black, so you think he's the bad guy, and Shinwan's all dressed in white, so you think he's the good guy. It's a very kind of simplistic visual metaphor. And as the movie goes on, we get to know Hashimoto and we get to know Shinwan, and we see how honorable and skilled and good these guys are. And by the time the final duel happens, the titular duel to the death, you're like, I don't know which one of these guys I want to win, So like you're kind of torn because you've grown to like both these characters so much. And the final duel is like so fucking badass. And the way it ends,
It's pretty brutal.
Oh, it's really brutal.
Yeah, it's extremely like this whole movie is pretty brutal. But the way it ends, like it's one of those Inception style endings where you're like, I wonder what actually happened, because it kind of ends in a little bit of an ambiguous way. And the duel takes place on this rock, on a cliff, rocky cliff, where like waves are crashing against it. It's like one of the most cinematic possible backdrops for a duel to the death that you could possibly get.
It was pretty epic,
Yeah.
I will admit.
And when these guys start fighting, you're just like, oh shit, like who's gonna win? And the crazy thing is that the fight is really brutal. Like these guys are fighting with swords and they're fighting to win. And at a certain
And
point,
they're like cutting limbs off and cutting fingers off.
Yeah.
Hashimoto stabbed himself in the foot.
Well, these like throughout the entire movie, they don't hold back on the blood and gore.
And like the whole movie, everybody knows like, yes, this is a duel to the death.
Yeah.
Not like we're going to fight to see who's best. Like one of us is going to die.
Somebody's going to get killed. Yeah.
One or both of us.
Yeah. And, both of these characters are so honorable that at a certain point, there's a wave that crashes and knocks them both off of the cliff. And as they're falling, Chinwan reaches out and grabs Hashimoto by his sword hand and holds on to the side of the cliff to keep them from falling to their death. And Hashimoto's sword accidentally rams itself into his shoulder. And despite the fact that he's got a sword in his shoulder, he's still holding on to the roof or the rock. And Chinwan, basically brings them back up to the top of the cliff.
They
Saving both of
up
them.
this wire.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
And basically once Hashimoto sees that Chinwan has this wound from having saved him, he takes his sword and stabs himself in the shoulder in the exact same place where Chinwan got his wound.
To make it even, Steven.
Yeah, to make it an even fight, because like that's just how he does stuff.
That's how he rolls.
Yeah, that's how he rolls.
Because he's a badass.
Because he's so badass.
Yeah, Hashimoto's a real badass. And so like as they're fighting, by the time we get to the end of the battle, so Hashimoto sees his opportunity to kill Chinwan. He goes to ram his sword into him. Chinwan sees this, grabs Hashimoto's sword blade with his bare hand, and uses his sword to ram Hashimoto straight through the gut. Now Hashimoto flips his sword up, takes off all of Chinwan's fingers, and then literally disarms him by cutting his sword arm off. So Chinwan's sword arm just goes flying. At this point, Chinwan basically can't hold a sword. So he's defeated. But Hashimoto also has this mortal wound that's gone right through him. So Chinwan kind of stumbles off and looks out into the horizon, with the ocean. And Hashimoto, because he's a boss, turns around, and even though he's got this mortal wound from having been run through by
A sword.
in order to keep from collapsing from this wound, he runs his sword through his foot to pin himself to the rock, and then leans against his sword to remain standing. And he just kind of like stoically looks out over the ocean in a kind of mirror to what Chinwan is doing. And the final shot of the movie is just this still image of Hashimoto standing there leaning against his sword with Chinwan kind of in the background. And you're left to wonder who actually won this duel. And so I ask you guys, who do you think was the winner?
I have to say that the guy that lost would be the one that didn't have an arm and didn't have any fingers on his other hand. So even if he were to survive, let's just assume that they both survived their wounds. One would still be able to fight and the other one would not. Does that make sense? Do you agree, Vader?
I think they both dead.
You think it's a draw?
I think it's a draw.
Straight draw.
Absolutely.
I
Jude?
think that not only did they both die, but I feel like the end of the movie represents the end of this 10-year duel. Like, because it was so rigged and unfair and unhonorable, I feel like these two very honorable fighters represented the end of the charade of this battle. And I think that they both died.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. So they capped this whole thing off. We're no longer doing this tradition. This is the end.
Well, I think it was ruined because of the people who were trying to cheat.
Yeah, so we should probably go over the overly convoluted plot really quickly, just so people are kind of
there are a lot of moving parts, and I know Vader said before that he kind of got lost with this. I was pretty lost. What I did to try and kind of laser focus in on the two main characters, because I got lost with all the subplots and all the side characters and stuff. So, Kadish, if you can give everybody the cliff notes, because this is a very complex movie.
Yeah. So every 10 years, China and Japan send their best swordsmen to face each other in kind of like a Super Bowl of martial arts. And whoever wins gets honor for their country. And for 10 years, they can kind of like have bragging rights that their warriors and their school of combat is the best. And it's something that's been going on for hundreds of years, and it's a big deal. And so we have these two characters. The first is Chinwan, who is like the best swordsman in China, and he trains at the Shaolin Temple.
What do they call him? Lord of the Sword or something?
Yeah, Lord of the Sword. And then you have Hashimoto, who's the best swordsman in Japan. And they've both been selected to basically participate in this decade's duel to the death.
And then we have Sheng Nan, the daughter of one of the people who is involved with this
Yeah,
fight.
so basically there's this school in Japan that hosts the duel called the House of the Holy Swords. And Master Han, who is the head of that school, his daughter is named Shinnan. And they basically are inviting these two swordsmen to come to their school and have their duel.
And he's like very traumatized because he can't have her in the fight. Therefore, he's disgraced.
He basically he feels like Shaolin has overshadowed his school, and so like he's jealous. But we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
So basically, what happens is that the Shogun of Japan sends his ninja army to steal the secrets of Shaolin Kung Fu, and because he knows that their martial art is inferior to Shaolin. And they strike a deal with Master Han, who heads the House of the Holy Swords, in order to basically sabotage this year's duel, where basically the Shogun and his ninja army can steal the secrets of Shaolin Kung Fu so they can train to defeat it in another 10 years. And Master Han, who runs the House of the Holy Swords, he can replace Chen Wan with his daughter and bring honor back to his school away from the Shaolin by having her defeat Hashimoto. And the ninja General Kinji, who the Shogun sends out there, he's tasked with kidnapping all the witnesses for the duel. So like they send out 30 invitations to have 30 witnesses watch the duel. And Kinji is also there to subvert Hashimoto so that Hashimoto loses. And during all this time, Hashimoto and Chen Wan, they're both very honorable guys, and so when they realize what's going on, they kind of reluctantly team up and become unlikely allies to fight this conspiracy. And that's kind of like the basic plot of the movie.
Yeah. I was really surprised at how many moving parts this movie had. Like, again, similar to Ninja Assassin, I went into this like, oh, this is going to be like your typical ninja movie. Lots of sword fighting, very basic, maybe a revenge plot or something like that. But like, this went full Game of Thrones. This had so many moving parts. There's betrayal. There's these cool characters.
There's a love story.
There's a love story. There's the crazy kung fu master in the woods who talks to parrots.
It's got everything.
It's got everything.
Yeah, that crazy kung fu master in the woods was actually Chen Wan's father. And he gave him up to the orphanage where basically he got this surrogate father in the Shaolin monk. And when he,
no idea.
well, when he goes to visit the crazy monk or the crazy kung fu master in the woods, like that's why he wants to tell his father that he's going to do this duel to test, his mettle as the best swordsman in the world, and thank him for giving him up to the Shaolin monks to train.
Where do you think the disconnect is for people like us who got completely lost by this movie? Is it because of the bad dubbing, or?
I've watched a lot of Hong Kong movies, and so I guess I might just be more used to like how they choose to tell their story,
like how they kind of structure things.
Kanish's brain is not like ours.
Yeah, he's different. he's built different.
Yeah, well, the director of this movie, Ching Su-sung, he's kind of like, he used to be a stuntman. He kind of pioneered the use of wire fu in Hong Kong movies. This was his directorial debut, I believe.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And like, you can tell like the martial arts in this, there's no CGI in this movie. It's all practical. It's all done with.
What year was this made?
This was 83.
83.
Oh, there wasn't any CGI then anyway, or was it?
Yeah. So like, everything is done with like the actors and the stuntmen and done practically. And it's just like.
Yeah, those people were actually flying.
Yeah.
and one of the things I really loved about this movie was how the ninja are used. Like the ninja, there's so many like cool things that the ninja do in this movie. The whole opening of the movie is the ninjas breaking into the Shaolin temple to try to steal their scrolls that teach them the kung fu. And so like they have this big fight with the Shaolin monks, and like they're all moving like you can tell they kind of undercranked the film a little bit because everyone's moving a little bit too fast. But in addition to that, there's like a scene where Shin Nan and Ching Wan team up to fight these ninjas, and they're all just throwing smoke bombs at them to confuse like where they're at. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. And then they got ninjas on kites who just like fly through the darkness. And probably my favorite ninja moment is the topless ninja Voltron, where basically this female ninja just comes out of nowhere. She spins around, and all of her clothes fly off, so she's completely naked. And the the Shaolin monk who
oh, my
who she's
virgin eyes.
the Shaolin monk who she's trying to kidnap, he's like, Buddha be praised. It's just like, it's one of the most bizarre, out of context scenes in the entire movie, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I think, unintentionally funny moments, but this movie does have a lot of comedy in it.
You mean like all of the audio?
All of the audio is unintentionally hilarious. All right, so let's polish this up real quick. Kadish, since you picked it, what is your one favorite moment that really stands out to you in this movie, and what do you give it for a grade?
I have a lot of favorite moments in this movie, but I think one of the ones that stands out is Shin Nan's introduction, where basically there's this big party in this town to kind of celebrate this duel to the death, and there's a puppet show going on, and the puppet master's basically doing this thing where because it's in China, the Chinese champion wins, and he kind of humiliates the Japanese champion. And there are these two Japanese warriors in the audience who take that as a personal offense at their honor. And so they kill the puppet master just in front of everyone. And the guy's poor wife is there, and she's screaming. She's like, "You killed my husband, you killed my husband." And Shin Nan literally like flies in from like, out of nowhere. And she's disguised as a man, even though it's obvious that she's a woman. And she basically calls out these two Japanese guys, and they're like, "What are you going to do about it?" And so she takes the sword and she gives it to the wife, and she's like, "Hold the sword like this." And so the wife holds the sword in front of her, and it looks like she's going to kind of urge the wife to fight these two guys.
And the wife looks terrified. Like, it's okay. I don't really want to. I don't want to battle to the death now.
I didn't like him that much.
Yeah.
And the two Japanese guys, they're kind of laughing because they see like how this wife is just like holding the sword and her hands are shaking. And then Shin Nan like goes and like she like stabs one of the guys with her sword and then kicks the other dude into the sword that the wife is holding. So the wife technically avenges the death of her husband.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
And that was like that was Shin Nan's introduction. And at a certain point in the movie, she tries to intercept Hashimoto so that she can duel him fairly because she knows about her father's ultimate plan to kind of subvert this duel. And she wants to basically just have a fair fight. And Hashimoto, like when she first shows up and challenges him, he's like, no. And then like she starts fighting him, and he just makes short work of her, like just kicks her butt. And instead of killing her, though, like he just kind of sheathes his sword, walks away like a boss, and he's just like, "I don't kill women." And she's just like, "Oh, drat, he saw through my disguise."
Yeah. So did the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very obviously a girl. And it's kind of funny because in the movie, when they refer to her as a boy, you're just like, no.
She's wearing eyeshadow.
Yeah, that's a very attractive boy.
So, what do you give this for?
Whatever. Don't yuck his yum.
No, I'm going to yuck that yum. Kadish, what do you give this for a rating?
All right, so it's very rare that like I watch a movie that sticks with me long after I've seen it, and that's usually the sign to me that this is a really, really good movie. Like I've never really watched this all the way through before, watching it for this show, and I was very taken by like how good this movie was. Like it works on so many different layers. It's got so much stuff going on. It's beautifully shot. It's beautifully acted. The color scheme in it is great. Like everything about this movie is just fantastic. But the ending made me think. Like it stuck with me long after I finished watching this movie. I was just like, what happened there? What was like the real ending? And so to me, that's like the mark of like a classic film. This is something that I would go back and rewatch time and time again and deconstruct and like pick apart.
Inception before Inception.
Yeah.
We have such different tastes in movies.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Kadish, though.
When this thing got over, I went click, and I walked away. I go, that was the weirdest movie I've ever seen.
Kadish's enthusiasm for it is making it in my mind seem like a better movie than it was when I watched it. Like I walked away from it, and he hadn't watched it yet. We were quarantining separately in the house because I was really sick. So I watched it first, and then I was like, "Hey, did you watch Duel of the Death yet?" And he was like, "No," and I was like, "Hey, it's weird."
So what do you have a favorite moment, or do you have a?
Well, I was gonna rate it real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't rate it. My bad.
Oh, he's
Go
been
ahead.
talking for half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, so sorry. Anyway,
okay.
I give this 4.5 throwing stars out of 5.
Freaking high praise.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is an undiscovered classic. Like it's really freaking good.
Okay, Jude, how about you?
I do feel like this represents like if you're looking for a ninja movie, especially like an old school ninja movie, this is exactly what you think you're going to get. I do think it was a very interesting movie. A lot of moving parts. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Really weird. So based on the scale of ninja movies, I'll give this another 4 out of 5 sabotaged battles.
Okay.
My favorite part that I really enjoyed was the scene when Shengnen's father sort of dupes, I think it's Chinwan, and Chinwan thinks that a ninja has come and cut off his legs, and then he's like, "Ha ha, you fool! I was born without legs." It's just so silly and funny.
Yeah, and the naked ninja is on screen right now as we're talking about the movie.
So funny.
Weird.
All right, Vader. Give us some salt, buddy.
I don't have a lot of salt.
Are you not enthused?
This movie, you know, man, it's been a couple of weeks since I watched this now, and out of respect for Kadish's enthusiasm for this thing and my just complete misunderstanding of what this movie is, I feel like I need to watch it like 3 or 4 more times before I can even begin to grade it. It's just so weird and out there and foreign. It wouldn't be fair to me to give it an actual rating right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's definitely not a movie. It's in my wheelhouse by any means, and it's just a weird, strange movie, and I feel like it's probably better than what my brain is telling me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, it's definitely better than this piece of shit movie we're gonna watch here in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm just gonna give it a.
Do you have a moment?
An NA right now.
NA. Okay.
So
Vader's undecided.
Much like the budget information. NA.
Do you have a moment in the movie that you actually like look back on and be like, man, that was actually pretty cool?
I like the goofy stuff in this movie. I like the ninjas flying through the woods with the crates and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I'm watching a Naruto movie or TV show, or when they're flying through the air across the water, jumping off their sword hilts and stuff. That was great.
Oh yeah, the sword double jump.
Yeah, the sword double jump.
Like, they jump into the air, then they
jump off their swords.
Then they use their swords to jump off of. I mean,
it makes no sense.
It's so ninja crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. How about that final battle in the woods where basically, Hashimoto teams up with Chinwan, and they're fighting the entire ninja army. And they're just like, jumping up into the trees and like flying around. Like, it was so cool. And that's all done practically.
I think if there's any way to describe my feelings about this movie right now, it would be kind of like that meme of John C. Reilly, where he's all, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at with this movie right now.
You kind of look like John C. Reilly right now with that big old beard.
Yeah,
Man, I think this movie's haunted.
It's like, I just don't know what's going on.
Okay, so for me, I admire the hell out of this movie. I think because everything was done practically, and you said this was the first movie this guy had ever made?
Yeah, this was his directorial debut.
That's incredible.
Like he'd worked on movies as like a stuntman and stunt coordinator, but this is the first time that he actually directed a film.
Because
I did kind of like the costumes and stuff in this movie.
I love how authentic it is.
It's very. I keep thinking, hey, isn't that the guy from Kill Bill?
Yeah,
it's like. So.
Yeah, I really appreciated this movie. I didn't understand it. I'm kind of with Vader. I kind of got lost in the plot, but having Kadish kind of describe it to me, it seems like the movie is way better than I thought it was.
I'm still confused.
I know, I get it. I'm like, yeah, that's totally what happened. I didn't know that at the time, but when you say it, I'm like, the pieces start getting put together. So I had a really good time with this movie, surprisingly good time. I thought the fight scenes were awesome. I loved how brutal it was with people getting cut in half, heads getting cut off. I love the classic kung fu Asian cinema style of like people flying through the air.
Oh, what about that part where Hashimoto kills Chingwan's master and surrogate father in order to force him into the duel? That was probably one of the most...
Oh, it's a freaking boss move.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most brutal parts of the film because like at a certain point, Shin Nan teams up with Chingwan to go against her father's plan. And the father accidentally kills his own daughter and his top student in the fight. And this was the girl that basically Chinwan had fallen in love with. And so he's so distraught over her loss that he takes his surrogate father, who was going to witness the duel, which was this Shaolin monk who basically raised him and taught him everything he knew. and he'd been hanging in this like dungeon for like weeks on end, so he was like super weak. So Chinon's taking him back home, and he's like, I don't want to do this duel anymore. I don't care. And Hashimoto confronts him, and he's like, hey, we got to do this duel. And the guy's like, you win, I don't care. And so in order to force Shenwan to fight him, Hashimoto kills his master and surrogate father right in front of him. And he's like, now you have to avenge his death.
And that's just, I mean, yes, it was badass, but also it's just one of those goofy things like, haha, you fool, now you must avenge him. It's just so silly.
Yeah. And Shenwan was like, fuck, you're right. and that leads to the final duel. But like, it was, you know, it was totally in line with Hashimoto's character and this idea of honor, because Shenwan did commit to doing this duel. And so like he was basically dishonoring himself by refusing to fight it. And Hashimoto, in a way, kind of saves his honor, Shenwan's honor, by forcing him into that, even though it meant killing this guy.
Man, I don't understand honor.
Kadish really liked this movie, guys.
I did. I really liked this movie, surprisingly.
That's awesome. Like I said, for a grading, I think I'd probably give it a 3, just because I didn't quite understand everything that was happening. I do feel like I need to watch it again, and I wouldn't mind watching it again, honestly, sitting down with a group and just having a movie night, having a kung fu night or something.
Sit down and watch it with Kadish, and he'll mansplain it the whole time. So, babe, basically what's happening here...
What's happening here is...
I don't want to confuse your brain or anything,
Basically.
You guys do a really good impression of me.
Like a Valley Girl version of Kadish.
So what's happening here is this guy's coming over here from this thing or whatever, this and that.
Yeah, go full George Lucas with it. Yeah. Okay, I may have gone
poetry.
It rhymes. I may have gone too far in a few places. No, I had a great time with this movie. I'd probably give it a 3.5, maybe 4. It's kind of ambiguous because I do need to watch it again, but it's a good. I feel like it should be labeled as a classic Asian cinema kung fu movie or ninja movie. Like it seems like it's ranks with those types of.
See,
we're watching it right now. I'm all distracted.
I know there's ninjas in this movie.
Yeah,
but I don't really call this a ninja movie.
Oh, I do for sure.
This is a kung fu movie.
All of the ninjas like in the forest that are kidnapping the other people in this duel.
They're just part of the. They're not a pivotal part of the story.
Yeah, technically, what it's about are these two samurai, basically warriors or fighters. But there's a shit ton of ninjas throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. The main characters aren't ninjas in this movie, but there are a lot of ninjas and ninja action in the film.
Yeah.
So I would definitely categorize it as a ninja movie.
I would suggest go watching it. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon, go check this movie out. It's well worth it.
Is it free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So go check it out. All right, guys, that's it for the Duel to the Death, or Duel to the Death. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Chuck Norris movie, The Octagon. So get ready for that. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. All right, if you guys would like to join our Discord server, go to saltynerddiscord.com. That brings you directly to our Discord server there. We have a ton of different chat rooms. We have spoiler chat rooms for different movies. We have a Jurassic June chat room. If you want to talk dinosaurs with me, I'll be there all month, baby.
He's there by himself.
I'm just tweeting.
Salty's the only one who cares.
That's not true.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, Jurassic June, guys. Anyway, so join our Discord server. We're trying to liven up the chat a little bit and transition ourselves from Twitter to Discord, because I feel like Discord has a better platform for getting to know our listeners and getting direct contact with you fine people. All right, guys, let's talk about this stink pot of a movie.
Oh, hush.
The Octagon. Go ahead, Jude. Take it away.
1980, The Octagon. Rated R with a runtime of 1 hour, 43 minutes. Had a budget of $4 million. What do you guess this brought into the box office?
Oh, God, I hope it loses money. $250,000. I don't know.
V?
$1.
$18.9 million.
What?
Chuck Norris, baby.
You know, it's funny. I just want to get this out of the way. When we were like, we're going to watch a 1980s Chuck Norris movie, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to see like a young, studly Chuck Norris.
No.
He looks old as fuck.
It's the mustache.
What is everybody in this movie? It looks like they're in their 50s. They're all wrinkly.
Man, the 80s were a rough time.
Ridiculous feathered hair.
I felt like they filmed this movie on the backlot of the A-Team.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so obviously this was my pick.
Yeah.
No.
You don't say.
Shocker.
We've got the badass ninja movie that Vader picked. We've got the nerdy film student ninja movie that Kadish picked. And then Jude's like, Chuck Norris.
I feel like I should just drop my salt and walk away and let her talk her stuff out, because this is literally the worst fucking movie I have ever seen.
It was so bad.
It's the worst movie I've ever seen.
I couldn't even finish it.
It was pretty bad.
You can't find it anywhere. You have to watch
On YouTube.
some bullshit overdub from somebody copied off a VHS tape and put it on YouTube. It's horrible.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. That's actually a good point, is that you can't find this movie anywhere on any streaming service.
Nope.
That's how bad it is.
What if you have to watch it on like Tubi or something?
Yeah.
If you can look really hard on some of these scenes, I think you can like see him filming scenes from Jake and the Fat Man or something in the background on one of the lots on the other side of the screen.
It was like, you see a film
There's
like
the House
this.
from Heart to Heart.
Yeah. You see a film like, obviously they didn't have any top of the line cameras, because this is just like real grainy.
Oh, it's awful.
Awfully, terribly focused. Everything's just, it's like a flat, everything's in focus shot, right?
I mean, it's technically it was shot in like 1979.
Right.
So like this is technically
but
a
the
70s
height
movie.
of
You know what
cinema.
else was shot in the late 70s, early 80s? Indiana Jones.
I really want Jude to do the synopsis so she can tell me what this piece of shit is about.
Okay, Jude, go ahead. Take it away.
You got it, buddy. If there's one thing everyone knows about ninjas, it's that they don't exist. But Chuck Norris's creepy inner monologue disagrees. There's. Ninjas. I know it.
I can't do it.
Trouble follows every time poor Chuck tries to get laid, proving that dames are nothing but trouble. No woman is good enough for Chuck until he teams up with Aura, a mercenary in over her head with the ninjas. She leads Chuck to Sakura's lair, where his brother waits to take him on in an epically boring battle.
It's always the evil brother.
Yeah.
This has got to be one of the worst sex scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
There was a sex scene in this movie?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But Chuck Norris just was like laying in bed with his arms up, and the chick was just falling over him, and he was like a dead fish, just no reaction. Just
It's because his wife was probably watching him film it.
He's so hairy that it made my loins explode.
You know the child versions of Chuck Norris in this movie where they do the flashbacks?
Yeah.
Those are his actual kids that play.
Shut up.
oh no way.
Yeah, and you know, like the teenage version of him, it looks so much like him. I was just like, man, like you can almost picture the mustache. You know?
Right?
I didn't.
Oh, this movie was so bad.
So
it's awful.
I had to fast forward some of it because there was a point where I was like,
I did too.
high five, buddy?
Dude,
I'm like,
you missed so much inner
No.
monologue.
I don't know.
Oh
my
God.
gosh.
Okay, the inner monologue is throughout the entire movie, and every single time, it's like scares you.
They can't exist. Nobody knows except me.
He'll be like just walking down the street, and then it'll be like, I wonder what so and so is doing for dinner.
It's like this weird echoey.
It's so fucking weird.
You know what's funny is when we were watching it, I turned to Jude and I was like, this reminds me of Dune. It's kind of like how Dune did their inner monologue, except with like a lot more echo. So it was almost like a horror movie thing, and you couldn't understand what he was thinking because
You
of
had
like
to put the
subtitles
on.
I did.
Because the echo was so bad.
Well, you couldn't understand what his inner monologue was saying. It was just like this weird thing throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And this was like one of the first movies to do that, where they were like, a big selling point of this movie was, oh, you get to hear Chuck Norris's inner monologue, his thoughts as he's going through the movie.
That was a selling point.
Not worth it.
Oh no, it was terrible. I didn't care about like 2/3 of this movie. Honestly, if
so
you guys
slow.
want to watch the only part of this movie that actually has any kind of like ninja fight scene in it, it's the last 20 minutes. That's it. That's when he goes.
But it's so boring.
But it's terrible.
It's awful.
There was this moment like he's supposed to be some super sly ninja, right? And he's wearing all black, and you're like, oh, he's gonna go full freaking ninja on these people, and he's gonna kick ass.
Nah.
No, he just literally is like running across people's yards in broad freaking light, just like Nobody could see me.
It's like, when is Chuck Norris going to be Chuck Norris?
It was terrible.
He had a few good spin kicks.
A spin kick. Yeah, okay. I can do a spin kick.
Like we talked about
Sort of.
Duel to the Death having some like legit badass fight scenes. This is the exact
And a
opposite.
story.
Yeah, and a story. This is the exact opposite. I have
For sure.
no idea what's happening in this movie. There's some like police investigative work going on, I think.
There's a lady, and she's trying to dupe him into protecting her or something.
No, so basically, okay, here's the story.
Really quick.
Yeah.
I was mad at Jude because
Yeah.
we picked ninja movies, and I'm like, ninja movies, Chuck Norris. This movie's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So, had you seen this before?
I hadn't.
Okay, good.
I thought
I'll
the same
cut
thing.
you a little bit
I
of
was
slack.
looking. I was like, I'd really like to see something with Chuck Norris in it. And I was looking, and like, you guys were so like, nope, doesn't count. Nope, doesn't count. And finally, I was like, okay, how about this one? You're like, yeah, okay. And I was like, okay, fine.
Okay, so I have a question before Katie gets into the plot. Why is Chuck Norris famous?
Because he was a karate champion.
He fought Bruce Lee
In one movie?
Well,
I think he was in a couple Bruce Lee movies. I
Yeah.
think he was in 2.
Was he?
well,
Yeah.
so yeah, he was like a martial arts champion, and then like when Bruce Lee brought him into the movies, he kind of blew up into the movie sphere.
Into like a B movie sphere, though.
He's Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, but that was way after.
I wouldn't call them B movies. I would just call them like.
Like at the time,
like
they were just
kung fu
movies.
Yeah, they were just movies.
Okay. Because I'm like, he's not a particularly good actor.
It wasn't until he got into the canon films that I think his movies started getting into the B movie territory.
Yeah, he's not a particularly good
I
actor.
feel like he's more of a meme.
He is.
For sure. Yeah.
Nowadays, definitely. I mean, I know he's like a legit kung fu fighter, but in the movie, he doesn't come off like somebody who really knows all that much. Like if you put somebody in a movie that can fight, usually you want to make it more pronounced that they are legit fighters, and you kind of amp things up a little bit to make them look really good. This movie was kind of like, okay, Chuck, go ahead and just do your basic moves, like your training.
I mean, this was before the time where they actually knew how to like film fight scenes or choreograph fight scenes.
Also back in this time period. So nowadays, it's not unusual to have actors train to do martial arts. But back then, like you couldn't train actors to do martial arts. You had to get martial artists and have them act.
Right.
And so that was kind of like the Chuck Norris era.
I'm just confused. Like,
Yeah,
what?
he's an athlete and a martial artist. He's not an actor at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like this was something they filmed for CBS Monday Night Movie Night or something.
I feel like somebody was just following Chuck Norris around with a video camera, and this is just shit that was actually happening to him.
Actually,
he goes to
actual
the
life.
opera, and some chick is like, "Come home with me, I want to bang," and he's like, "Yeah, man," and like her family's dead when they get here, and he's like, "Oh shit."
Cock blocked.
Yeah. I'll give you the basic plot of this movie.
Someone needs to.
So there's this terrorist / mercenary organization that utilizes a secret ninja training camp to train all their mercenaries so that they can, work for terrorists across the world. And everyone doesn't believe ninjas exist. And so basically this terrorist organization / mercenary group that advertises in the newspaper.
Come take our 6-week ninja school.
They're sending their recruits to this ninja school to become elite warriors, and this ninja school is run by Chuck Norris's surrogate brother that he grew up with and trained with. And Chuck Norris, because he trained with this guy, recognizes that ninjas do exist, and Chuck Norris is like a former special forces guy.
He's like a former mercenary or something.
Well, he's a former soldier.
Yeah.
And so basically he meets this girl at this dance recital and goes back to her place to have sex. And her entire family is like murdered by ninjas. And it turns out that her brother was like part of this like ninja group that got caught. He kind of spilled the beans. And so like they're going kind of wiping the slate clean. And this puts Chuck Norris onto the tail of his brother. And Chuck Norris teams up with Lee Van Cleef, who runs an anti-terrorist government group.
Anti-ninja.
Anti-ninja.
Van Cleef.
Yeah, Lee Van Cleef. And basically Chuck Norris tries to infiltrate this mercenary group so he can find the ninja training ground, which takes place in the Octagon, which is the code name for the ninja training place. And he meets this other girl who's like this rich woman whose father was murdered by these ninjas, and she tries to recruit him, but he's like, nah, I don't want to deal with you. And then
She's trying hard to bang him too, and he's just like, That
and
that
she
vagina's not good enough for this dick.
yeah, and she recruits his best friend to go and find these ninjas, and she dies in the process. And then this other girl who was a mercenary who defected from the ninja school teams up with Chuck Norris to take him there because she defected, they're trying to kill her. So she teams up with him to save her own life. And then Chuck Norris and his best friend and this female ex-mercenary all raid the Octagon and have this really long, boring fight.
Oh God, it's so long and boring.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I did learn today
What's that?
said if somehow you get orphaned in Japan,
You turn into a ninja?
you're going to be kidnapped and trained as a ninja. That's right.
It's the worst fates.
Yeah.
This movie was so bad that it made me question why Chuck Norris was even a thing in pop culture.
Me too.
I was like,
Thank you, Jude.
Welcome.
why is he famous? Why is he such a cool ass
You ruined
dude?
Chuck Norris for us.
You did that to yourself.
Like, I need to go and find some Chuck Norris movies that are actually good to kind of like redeem him from this movie.
I need to go read the book of Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah. Chuck Norris was in Star Wars. He played the Force.
Good one.
Woo! All right. I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's really, really bad, guys. It's not even like I feel like if Tom was here, he might like, oh, it's so funny, or it's so bad it's funny. But I'm like, I didn't get that.
No, it's not even that level of bad.
Yeah.
It's the worst type of bad, where it's boring and confusing and stupid and not redeemable in any way, shape, or form.
But also funny because it's so bad.
Do you
like
think
the
that?
whole time I was like, oh shit, she really wants that dick. And it was just like so funny, like the way that, so sorry to say this, women of the world, but it was so funny how badly treated every woman in this movie was. Like the best friend's girlfriend, she, poor girl, she's his legit girlfriend, and he like, I don't know. He's like, I'm going to the bathroom, and like never comes back.
Yeah,
and
he treats her terribly.
She's like, you better apologize to me. And he's like, oh, shut up, you dumb dame. And then he literally starts like banging the rich chick. And he's just like, fuck her.
Wait, didn't he say like, I did you a favor or something like that?
I don't know.
And she's
oh
like,
my
yeah,
God.
you're probably right.
It's so mean.
so bad.
It's so mean.
Every woman.
Yeah,
is
he
treated-
does treat her terribly.
So
in the
bad.
movie.
She says, you better apologize to me or else, like 14 times during this movie because he's so mean to her. I'm like, girl, leave.
I have no recollection of this.
No? Oh my God, dude, it was hilarious.
It is kind of funny, like how smooth Chuck Norris just plays every woman just throwing themselves at him in this
Yes,
movie.
every woman throws themselves at him.
I almost feel like they were trying to do a James Bond thing, because like Chuck Norris is always overdressed in every scene that he's in.
He's wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah, like this like greasy spoon diner and stuff like that. But like Ernie Hudson's in this movie
Yeah.
for like 2 seconds. But it's just kind of funny because every every scene that Chuck Norris is in with a girl who's just like wants to sleep with him, he's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm so used to this.
So suave. Whatever. Women.
He does throw some sweet roundhouse kicks in this movie.
That's about it, man. I mean, even the ninja fight at the end where he's like hopping on the pallets of wood floating on the water. It was so corny.
They could probably take this concept of the movie and make a really good movie out of it.
Probably. I was thinking about that. I'm like, I was trying to imagine, like, what would this look like if they made like a modern version of it? Instead of like when they were jumping on the platforms on the water, instead of having it be like full-size pallets, it would probably be cooler if it was like just like little beams and they were doing their kung fu fight and they had to balance on the beams and stuff. Like, there's ways to make this
anything
better.
better.
Yeah, it's just they just didn't do it.
Well, what's interesting about this movie is that this was like the first major ninja picture of the 1980s, and it started off the whole ninja cycle in Hollywood, where basically they started making like all these like really chintzy like ninja movies.
Was there like a Lee Van Cleef ninja verse?
could have been, but like this was the movie that kind of kicked off the ninja craze. So
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's just really, really bad.
Oh, don't watch it.
I don't want to watch it.
Don't watch it.
they actually rewrote the ending of this movie because the original thing that they had planned was going to be too expensive to film. So like they just like kind of made up the ending of this the ending fight of
They were
this
like,
movie.
just go out there and do your best, guys.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
And you know how everything catches on fire?
Yeah.
It was more cost effective to just burn that set to the ground than it was to dismantle it, which is why they had it set on fire.
awful. Man.
That's amazing. They're like, we can't afford to dismantle this thing. Just burn it down.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was done so much on the cheap. Like, there's a scene where this kind of hot rod car, like I think it was a Ferrari or something like that, comes out of nowhere to try to, run Chuck Norris off the road or something like that. And that was the director's actual car. Because like to save money, they didn't want to use a stunt, they didn't want to buy another car to use as a stunt vehicle. And they ended up like denting at the car like really badly.
Oh,
and,
no.
Like one stunt, the director was like really pissed off.
That's what you get for making a shitty movie.
Never use your own car, man.
I know, right?
This is like one of those movies, and they need to make a movie about the making of this movie, and how bad
Everything. It would be like another movie like what was it? In God Spoke, like a mockumentary about making the Octagon. It'd be pretty funny.
Well, what's funny is the guy who was the enforcer, Kaio, the ninja who was like in full ninja garb the entire time. Like he was so in character, like no one knew who he was on set. They had no idea who the actor was playing that guy, and he was actually because he was like head to toe in costume. He actually played multiple different characters in the movie.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So
That's funny.
yeah,
All right.
very low budget filmmaking.
Yes.
Let's polish this off. Jude, what do you give it for a rating?
Oh, it's not good. It's a movie. It has ninjas in it, and also Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
I do not recommend it, but it exists. So
It exists.
it didn't make me angry watching it. Like I actually thought that it was hilarious.
This seems like a
it
Ewan.
was unintentionally hilarious to me. So I'm going to give it 2 ninjas out of 5.
2. Vader?
This movie's painful. All right. I think it's literally the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like I said earlier, no. This makes Chopping Mall look like a fucking like an Oscar performance movie. This made me question my thoughts of Chuck Norris being a badass.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing in this movie made sense. The script was awful. It looked like the cutting room floor from a Heart to Heart episode. It was terrible. It's just
Undescribably bad.
indescribably bad. Yes. That's good. I like that. I give this, for the first time ever, I'm giving this a 0 stars. It's unwatchable. It's unwatchable.
Wow.
I mean, I fast forwarded through 20 minutes of this.
I did.
Well, that's why you didn't understand it.
I said I'm over this piece of shit.
It lost me by then.
Yeah.
Listen,
I got to an hour, and then I fast forwarded 20 minutes, and I watched the last 20 minutes.
That's exactly what I did.
And I said, I'm never watching this thing again.
At the
and
ninja training
and I
zone,
hate
they
Jude for
chop
making me watch
fruit in order to intimidate the recruits. They chop fruit.
This is so not
Isn't that
a ninja
a
movie.
mobile game where you get to the fruit chopper
They
game?
stab fruit. They're like,
awful.
yeah, imagine if this was a person. And it's just a melon.
They draw a face on it with magic marker.
The only good thing about this movie was maybe the chick's hair. It was well done. So,
This movie did have boobs in it, though.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
No points awarded.
Those are
None.
0-star boobs.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for watching this movie.
I want this 2 hours of my life back.
God, I wish
I'm crying a little bit.
I wish I knew
awful.
that quote by heart. I would do the whole quote. All right, Kadish, how about you, bud?
Oh, this is a 1-star crap fest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a good movie at all.
You guys are mean.
Yeah,
Boring.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement. This is unwatchable, and it did make me question why Chuck Norris is considered a badass. 'Cause I was
Chuck Norris owes me money.
You didn't pay to watch this.
it was free on YouTube, and he still owes you money.
Still owes me money.
He owes me a couple of cantaloupes.
Oh boy, I feel like we should talk longer about it. But
I'm going to his Maverick gas stations and I'm stealing some of his water.
wait, he owns Maverick?
Yeah, he's like a big investor in Maverick.
I had no idea. I go there every day. All right.
The family has Chuck Norris water in there. I'm just gonna go steal a plaque out of it. And put it in my
He
car.
owes me.
This is mine.
I watched that shitty movie you made.
This is for the Octagon. I'm taking it. piece of shit.
The guy behind the counter, he's like, I
Oh,
hear ya.
I get it.
I get it.
We do this every day.
We get at least one person a month.
Octagon water in the back. I'm writing a letter.
It's already taken out of the budget.
I'm writing a letter.
You want a couple gallons of gas too, buddy? You watched the whole thing? You need a Snickers.
Vader's going to tweet at Chuck Norris
I'm doing
today.
it. You owe me money.
You fuckwit.
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, God, I'm ugly.
So anyway, you can find me at IamGGQ on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Let's get out of here. All right, Jude. I'm sorry we didn't like your movie.
I did not expect you to. I didn't like my movie.
Okay. Kadish, where can we find you on the socials?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter, and kadishbooks.com will take you to my Amazon page.
And Vader, when you're done with your angry tweet.
Yeah, you should follow Vader on Twitter because he's always yelling at people.
Matt Vader 74. You can find me typing to Chuck Norris right now.
And I am your host, the Salty Nerd. You can catch me on Twitter at salty_nerd. That's been our Ninja Week. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what your favorite ninja movie is. And we'll catch you next week. Stay salty, my friends.